So that's the thing, Sammy, is I was just hoping that at one point we were going to have a team that just was just a normal team. Like, hey, just a normal team. We're 1-1. We're going in and, experiencing everything else that everybody else gets to enjoy during a regular NFL season. An opportunity just to not feel completely miserable about ourselves. There were some things that, are a little bit different, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But still, I just when I was sitting there, and I'll be honest with you, in full transparency, I missed part of the opening today because I was out at AYSO Picture Day. Yeah, I didn't sleep through it. I still saw it. I went through that, and I was driving. I'm like, it was 7-7, and I'm like, oh my god, like we're tied 7-7, and then the unpleasantness started to happen after that. But you know what? Again, there's a lot of things to go over. So, Sammy, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. Thank you so much. We're going to be going over a recap of what just happened on Sunday. I'm glad I took a couple of hours just to sit here and I digest it and not jump immediately into this. Don't want to be too hysterical. Don't want to go over too overly critical of everything that was been going on. I did have notes. I was keeping notes during the game. We had my guy Sean was there. Lance and his boy Ben were there. The fam was there. And, I'm taking notes during the game, going over some of the minutia of things that I liked or didn't like or things we might or should not. And then ultimately it doesn't matter because it is one of the most horrific losses, that we've ever seen in which is hard to say. There's been some bad ones. I think even Detroit last year. And again, I wanted to sit here and I was going to be a little bit more upset and be a little bit more fiery and everything. But however, Aaron Rodgers, I just saw his clip, talking about his team's loss this week. And, he didn't go to his full relax mode. He didn't go to his whole thing about everybody needs to chill, brah, or anything like that. He's just like, look, it's week 2 of the NFL season. You can't get too wrapped up into the highs, and you can't get wrapped up too much into the lows. The only problem is I would like to experience, I don't know, maybe one of the highs. Maybe have 1 week where we can go out there and we can celebrate and just feel good about ourselves. But you know what? I think about this team, a couple of years ago. It was one of the Matt Nagy seasons where we were, 5-1 to start a year. There was a season, I think Mark Trestman started off 2-0 in his first season. Even Matt Nagy was 1-1. So again, the early season success is not going to matter too much for the Bears moving forward. But I think ultimately what we're starting to see, and again, I don't mean to be this overly optimistic person that I'm sure annoys a lot of you. However, there is something to be said about starting these games not completely in the hole. Again, starting off and it was 7-7. And you're like, yeah, you know what? This is a nice feeling as opposed to being down 14-0 or something like that. Now, there were some things that turned, and there are still a couple of issues that I'm really upset about. I think the officiating, and again, I don't want to blame the officiating didn't cost us this victory. It's kind of like the other day, my girls' side lost a bad game on Saturday, and one of the officials was coming up to me after the game. He's like, hey, do you have any notes for me as a center referee? And I'm like, well, that girl, she drop kicked on what should have been a goal kick. That should have been an indirect kick for us. And again, that's not what cost us the game. However, still, these are things that need to be cleaned up, not only from the Bears' perspective, but from a league perspective. You want your officials held to the highest possible standard. And again, you can sit here and be like, oh, you're blaming. I'm not blaming the refs. There's a lot of blame to go around, but it's definitely not a referee. But the referees are not helping. It's the second consecutive week where the referees have changed the momentum of the game with an obviously bad call. The TJ Hawkinson one is debatable of whether that was a bad call or not. I still don't know. if the ball is part of the body at this point, because again, it just doesn't make sense to me. But you know what? That's water under the bridge. The Darnell Wright holding in week 1 was terrible. The Tesla being down by contact. Like, how do you miss that? Referees live for keeping the clock moving. Like this, the NFL's whole thing. I know a lot of you aren't old enough to remember, but back in the NFL day, back in the old days, we used to have games that would bleed well into the 1 o'clock hour, at least 1 o'clock here in the Pacific window, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. And the NFL got rid of that. They're just like, no, we want these games. They almost want to go with a like AYSO running clock to the point of like, these games need, I'm surprised they just don't like, at 1 o'clock, the game's over. Regardless of the score, regardless of the quarter, we have TV marks to hit. We're all about selling advertising. The product on the field is fine, but we're here to sell advertising. We need to keep these games tight and keep them moving. So it's shocking to me in an era where you will see guys where it feels like they're so well out of bounds, right? Well, he was moving back a touch before he went out. So they're always so eager to keep that clock moving. However, in this instance, they were not. And then they huddled up, and then they're like, oh, we made a mistake. And then we're like, we're going to give you 6 seconds. Like, okay, the 10-second runoff. Even then, the 10-second, whatever. It's water under the bridge. Again, it didn't cost us the game. I just expect a little bit more from the NFL officials. If you want me to spend $149 on a windbreaker from NFL Shop, if you want me to invest my Sundays in watching the games, then you should do a better job of making sure that these things are corrected. Now, I'm not saying that they won't make mistakes. It just seems like they're piling up an awful lot against the Chicago Bears. Again, not what killed the Chicago Bears. I do not want to make that the overarching theme. Some of the things I think that the Bears can work on is number one. I do love the fact that Ben comes out and has his team prepared and ready to go. Opening drives have looked fantastic. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they're scripted. And I'm like, well, that's good. If you're scripting, like we didn't score on the first drive of any game last season. So yeah, it's not as easy. It's not, you shouldn't dismiss it. It's clearly not obvious because we didn't do it last year. But it's very clear that this team is a lot better at moving the ball in the opening drive, and we need to start keeping that momentum. That is one of the biggest things where you're like, okay, well this at least gives me a little bit of hope. Like, okay, like it's one of those things. It's like, all right, I like the way this is going. I like the way this is moving. Really enjoyed going out there and seeing everything that we saw. So that part of it is positive. Another positive too, which I really like, is Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze has looked fantastic to the point that I think he's going to. I think it's now happened, and he's finally usurped. He's finally usurped DJ Moore as the number 1 wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. I think we can say that now. For anybody who drafted DJ Moore in your fantasy leagues, and there were some guys sitting there at the bar today being like, "Hey, where is number 2?" And you're like, "Yeah, is he active? Is he inactive? And let me know." I'm not 100% sure. Rome Odunze is that guy, and he is going to be the number 1 receiver moving forward. And so for anybody who drafted him in fantasy, you are much better off for having him in your lineup right now. And speaking of fantasy football, why win your fantasy league when you can rule it? Now we're talking about Crown Champs, everybody. Crown Champs, the hottest thing that has ever happened to fantasy football. And for just $2.99 per month per player, you can enter to win your own crown, robe, scepter, ring, all kinds of cool stuff at crownchampscompany.com. Go there right now. Check out crownchampscompany.com. Go look at the great items that they have. And it's more than that. Like, it was an experience too. Like, when you go in there and you find out about Crown Champs, you find out they got a whole cool experience as well. So it's something you can start thinking about for next season. Like, don't go and have your draft party in an Applebee's. Instead, go out on a rooftop, on a yacht, or whatever. Go have a great time. But listen, what you need this season though is that crown. That crown signifies that you are fantasy royalty. So don't just win your fantasy league. Don't just go out there and get some lame GG in the comment section. Go out and rule your fantasy league. Go to crownchampscompany.com and let them know that Adam Rank sent you. And here are some things that we can definitely start cleaning up, though. So Rome Odunze is great. The scripting is great. And then we're like, yeah, that's about it. That's about everything that I really want to talk about. That's what's going well for us right now. There's a lot of things. I don't even know where to start. Number one, it's the penalties that need to be cleaned up right now. Again, there's a lot of subjective penalties going up against the Bears for reasons I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes these referees go out there and they get caught up in the adrenaline and the swell of a crowd or something like that. And, this Detroit crowd was great, like fantastic. And honestly, I'll take my hats off to the Lions fans who were out there having a really good time, really enjoying that. I can only imagine what it's like to just sit there like you're mad at Ben Johnson, you hate Ben Johnson, and you go out there and destroy him and you beat him in like the worst way, like the best way imaginable for you. Going out there, putting up, half 100 on him, like, yeah, Ben, we didn't need you at all. And it's great. And it did feel like it was Detroit's Super Bowl. And I'm curious to see how the Lions respond over the rest of the season. I think that last week they were a little flat because they knew they had Ben Johnson in week 2. That was going to be the game that they were already talking about it. Amon-Ra St. Brown was already talking about it on his shows and doing all that stuff. So that this team, it's kind of like the Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl where they're like, yeah, I guess we're here in Green Bay. Like, it's fine, but we really want to beat the Bears ASS in week 2. And it looked that way. And they went out there and they celebrated. And you would have thought, this was a team, one of those plucky small school teams that won the conference tournament and is going on to the NCAAs to go face Duke or, Kentucky or somebody like that. And then they're going to get destroyed. But in this moment, they were having a great time and you don't want to ruin that for them. So I tip my hat to the Lions. Congratulations on a great victory for you. That's all great. Now we need to be moving forward. The optimist in me, and I really do feel like this is the case, is at some point we will look back and we will be like, God, remember when the Bears started 0-2? Like, if you look back at the beginning of the Jimmy Johnson era in Dallas, if you look back at the Bill Belichick era starting in New England, not great. There were some growing pains. And I think for Chicago Bears fans, it's so difficult because we get so hyped. We get so invested in our team. And we go out there and we want them to be good, like so bad. And we want it to happen immediately. And I think that the calmer heads were always telling us, like, look, it's going to be more of a slow burn. It's not going to be that quick. And we see other teams go out there and dominate right from the get-go. And you're like, why can't that be us? Well, we're in a division that actually has competent teams. It's not like last season with the Commanders where we got Dallas and you got the Giants. So you're like, oh, well, there's 4 wins right there. Excuse me, you had a little bit of an easier schedule. And so for me, like, being in the toughest division in the entirety of the NFL, there is going to be some growing pains that I just didn't want to admit were going to be there. But the reality of the situation is right now, as we look at this, and the one thing that I hope that you'll take from this is, as bad as it is right now, and it's morose and it sucks, just sucks sitting there. And you're like, how much money did we spend to be at this place, to go out there? And you're like, yeah, hopefully you had a great time. Thankfully, I hang out with great people. So it is worthwhile. It is a worthwhile adventure. And by the way, where are you spending your game days? Because I'm telling you right now, Twisted Shamrock is the place to be on game day if you're a true fan of Chicago sports. I'm talking about the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire. There is no place you would rather be than Twisted Shamrock. They've got an amazing set of TVs. You go to the private party room, you go to the main bar, or if you want to go out to the patio. Patio season is in full effect in Chicago. Cash in while you can. Go out there, enjoy the best fans, the best wait staff imaginable, and I'm going to tell you right now, the best old-fashioned in the entirety of the Midwest. It is happening there at Twisted Shamrock. If you cannot get to the game on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys, please go to Twisted Shamrock, check it out, let them know that I sent you, and you will have a wonderful time regardless of what the Bears do to you. So here's another thing too. So speaking of which, is again, when we came into this season, even the most myopic of people and when I say myopic of people, I'm talking about myself. I thought the Bears would be 1-1 at this point. I think a lot of us just assumed the Bears were going to be 1-1, and that's the way it was going to be. We'll start off 1-1. The only thing that's changed is that it would have been nice to have gotten that Minnesota game. That's a game we should have won. I think that for anybody who thought we were going to beat Minnesota, you had to be expecting it through 3 quarters last week. We're 1 game off the pace of where we wanted to be for the start of the season. So if you pick them to win 12 games, you're a game off that pace. 11 games, a game off that pace. I think most people assumed that we were going to go into Detroit and we were going to lose that game. We weren't picking against them. But again, at the same time, we're like, probably be 1-1. This game against the Cowboys is going to be very winnable. The game against the Raiders is going to be very winnable. There's still an opportunity for this team to go into the bye week at 2-2. So again, like it looks terrible right now, and I can't believe again I'm going to go to the knowledge and wisdom of this jerk. But Aaron Rodgers was sort of correct. Like, it's week 2, it's the NFL. Like, things happen, things go poorly, things change in an instant in the NFL. What I would like to see from the Bears, number 1, is more consistency on the offensive line. That means less penalties. That means less, and again, I got to go back and watch the All-22s and try to find out where the face mask was, where the holdings were. It's so frustrating, too, to watch. That was a hold, we're calling that a holding. And then you will see a Lions player, literally have the shoulder pad of a Bears defender. And you're like, okay, I guess not all the holdings are called, but whatever. Limit the penalties. Be sharper. And number 2, stop pressing yourself into these, going for it on 4th down. At some point, you got to wear it. And I know that we got away with it the first time because the kicker missed the field goal. But at some point, you got to start, you just got to wear it. The fans are going to be eager. It's another 3 and out and everything like that. Just go out there. Don't panic, because you know what? It ends up rubbing off on the rest of your team. You want Caleb to make good decisions, and you want Caleb to not press, to not make ridiculous throws like he did. That stems from a head coach who doesn't who doesn't succumb to the pressure. Punt that on 3rd, punt it on 4th down. I know, again, it sucks. It sucks to have another 3 and out. It really does. It sucks worse to not pick up the 4th down and have all those fans cheering. Again, we got away with it at the time, but you can't do that. Flip the field. There's a reason why. Isn't this why we drafted Torrey Taylor in the 4th round of the NFL draft? We got to do a better job of that. We got to start getting our younger guys involved. Colston Loveland was the number 10 overall selection. Let's start using him. Rome Odunze is now starting to show himself. He's now starting to be a difference maker. So for anybody who's asking, hey, where are your difference makers? We've had all these top 10 picks. Where are the difference makers? Oh, I don't know. Caleb and Rome Odunze look like they're going to be difference makers. That's my rebuttal for that. Colston Loveland needs to join that category and needs to start getting involved. We need to see Ozzie Trapillo, if he's going to end up being a project guy, fine. Still, if he was going to be the depth, because we did sign 3 guys on the offensive line. Okay, fair enough. Got to get the younger guys involved. Got to be a little bit more cohesion. I think that once Ben starts pushing the panic button of going for it on 4th down, it just permeates through the team. Show some trust in the defense. Yeah, you're paying Dennis Allen a lot of money to go out there and do things right. And that whatever was happening on Sunday was awful. Again, losing Jalen Johnson does not help. Losing TJ Edwards does not help. Losing Kyler Gordon, not having him to start the game does not help. Still, every team in the NFL has to overcome injuries. The Bears need to find a way. And the Bears need to figure out how to react to adversity. When something does not go your way, you can't just roll over and play dead. And if you start correcting those mistakes, I think the Bears are going to be just fine. So thank you very much for joining us. That's all I got to say about that today. Thank you so much. We'll be back Monday night with Kendall Valenzuela for Fantasy Island. Nick, from Just Another Year, and we'll have Greg Braggs on Wednesday. Going to be a great week here as we get prepared for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's all we got for tonight. Bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.